so everybody can come in and get a seat and stuff. Um, I had all my kids, no, almost all my kids. Two of my kids remained socially distant from everybody because he started a new job. So he was quarantining for that. And my ex-husband and his wife and their daughter came.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's that's very nice.
Yeah, and it was lovely. To be honest, it was actually lovely. They're very nice. People have issues. I don't have any issue with them at all. But my kids really loved it. My older kids, they were like, this was such an easy Thanksgiving
Good.
because they didn't have to go here and there, and it was nice. And they're lovely people. We just, we're at the wedding with them. We spent a lot of time with them lately. We kind of like they couldn't go to their family either. Like she couldn't go to her parents' house because we had been at the wedding and we were still trying to stay only with the people we had been with.
Right. Right. So
Yeah.
hi Lisa and Amanda and hi Gina. It's good to see you guys. It's 8:25, so let's
Oh my
jump
goodness.
in.
All right. So welcome everybody to Empowering Women Entrepreneurs. We have the fabulous Aisha Hamilton, the owner of Hamilton Law, and she focuses her practice on employment law. I am Elisa McCabe. I'm the owner at First Steps Financial, and we help small businesses by simplifying processes, organizing financials, and gaining insight utilizing technologies and strategies. All information and content in this webinar is for general purposes only. And today we're going to be talking about saying no and how to say it, and when it's a full sentence, and how to still feel good about yourself. But before we get to that, Aisha, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So I do have to tell you, I have to tell you about my day.
Uh-oh.
It started by getting to work at like 6 a.m. this morning, because apparently I needed this session on how to say no like 4 weeks ago. So we're done with this at 8:55. At 9 a.m., I have a conference call with the judge. At 10 a.m., I start a deposition that's going to go all day. And then at 6 p.m., I have an event with, one of the bar association sections that I'm in. And I thought, boy, if there is an example of when you take a look at your schedule and you say no to one of these things, and it's not even a no, I'm not doing it at all, it's just a no, not on this day.
Yeah, no, not at this time. And
Not
that's
at
got
this-
to be okay.
yeah,
Because I think sometimes we're afraid to say no.
yeah,
Like, because there's going to be consequences to that no. So what if you said no to, the meeting that you have tonight?
right.
Would
And
they not include you again? Would
yeah,
they?
no, but I can't say no to that one. So here's my mental process, right? Can't say no to that one because I'm co-sponsoring it.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
can't say no to the deposition because this date worked for 6 people, right? So that needed to happen. I could have said no to the judge when his secretary scheduled in fact, she scheduled for 10 a.m. today. And I said, could you do 9 a.m. instead? Instead, what I should have said was, ooh, Thursday is a really bad day. How about Friday at certain time, right? But sometimes we get caught in a cycle in our heads of, oh no, you can't say no.
Yeah.
You can't say no to that. Got to be accommodating.
Yeah. I was just thinking that, like, do you think it's because we're afraid to inconvenience other people?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was.
We want to be the yes person.
Right.
Yeah. And
And what a
sometimes
mistake. Right.
I know, and we don't realize it when we say it.
Right.
Because the consequences are later. They don't happen right. Because we say, yeah, sure, no problem. And nothing happens right then. It's not
Right.
like we get hit with a ton of bricks at the moment. It happens later.
Yeah. And so I think my lesson that I learned from this, right, is take a moment and pause, right, before you respond with yes, that's fine, or no, it's not. Take a second to sort of say, wait a second, how does this work for me?
Mm.
Look at the schedule, look at the week ahead, look at the week behind it, just be mindful. It's
You
as
know,
with everything, right?
and it's true because my nephew was here. He works remotely. He works on the West Coast and he was here on the East Coast. He had back-to-back meetings, like literal back-to-back meetings from noontime till 9 o'clock at night.
Oh,
I'm like, what about a bathroom break? I'm like, what? Like, how do you do this? He goes, I don't eat. He goes, and for bathroom breaks, he goes, I'm just late to the next meeting. I'm like, that's not good.
yeah. How old is he?
Well, he's 29.
Yeah, but you know what? That's how you start to burn out.
Yes, exactly. I was telling him that. I was like, I'm like, he's like, oh, I can do this. I'm like, I know you can, but should you?
Yeah. Well,
You know,
Lisa, you were just giving me an example where your staff stepped in. Tell us about that.
so this was really this was empowering as could be, and it wasn't even me saying no. So we had an incident where I had a client. There was an issue with someone on our team. We have a single mother who's amazing, and she has kids at home because school's out, and she's trying to do everything. And so I said, look, I'll step in. I'll do the work. I'll take on. And both my chief of staff and my accounting manager said, no, we will take care of it. And it was, I have to tell you, it felt so good because they both were trying to tell me, you have to say no to this, even though you want to say yes and you want to help, anyone on the team. But we got to stay the course. You got to stay focused,
Yeah.
because my goal for 2021 is to educate small business owners and empower them to become successful. And if I'm working with my clients, I'm not getting that message out. And they both were like, no, you can't do this. Remember what you said. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. But that's fantastic, right? So what you created inadvertently was an accountability structure,
Yeah.
right? So to disclose what your objectives are, and then have somebody, who's in your business, literally, whether it's personal or, your actual business, but someone who says, wait a second, does that fit with your objectives?
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to say no to that.
How do we get people in our lives like this? Like, you're a solopreneur, but who could be that person that holds you accountable and says, you can't say yes to that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably you.
Maybe, maybe we have to have these weekly mornings and I say, what does your calendar look like?
Exactly.
No,
But
no, can't do that.
it's funny because I chat with Beth and Amanda who are on this call. And every once in a while, we'll send each other text messages that say, listen, like Amanda sent a text message saying, I'm really happy because I just said no to a program because I looked at that week and it was way too busy. I was overcommitted already. And it was hard to say no, but I said it. And I really was inspired by that because I thought, you know what? Like, why is it so hard for us to say no? Why do you think it's so hard?
Because I think we're worried about missing opportunities too. So I had the same situation where I was invited to come speak at a nationwide conference of these franchises. And we already have several of these franchises as our clients. And it was a chance for me to get in front of every single franchise in their nationwide. And it was 3 days before my son's wedding. And I was like, oh my God. And at first I said, yes, of course I'll do it. I have to. It's the opportunity. And then I sat back and I said, you know what? I can't. And as soon as I told them no, I felt like I could breathe. I felt so much better. And I had to give myself a kind of a pep talk. Like, look, just because you close one door doesn't mean another door is not going to open.
So how did you say no?
I was just very open. I just said, it's too much. And I explained that, it's my son's wedding. We are going to be in another state. Like it was a lot to do. And they were fine and they were accommodating about it, but I know they were slightly disappointed.
But also maybe in the way that you say no, right,
Mm.
is a not at this time, right? So there are some ways, some opportunities that you're like, hell no. That's just a flat no.
You want to close that door and nail it shut.
And nail it shut. In which case you say, no, but thanks for thinking of me.
Yeah.
Okay, right? But in an opportunity that we're at next November, you would be on board, no question.
Exactly. You know
I
what?
You
You're
did
right.
the right thing about explaining, listen, it's no for this one, but not for the future. I love
Right.
you guys. I want to participate. No today, but please keep me in mind.
And I did. I offered to do the webinar at a different time. You know, like, hey, like I can do the same webinar at a different time or in smaller groups,
Right.
like whatever you choose, because they're a great company. I just love working with them.
And
Um,
I think the way you say no is really important, right? So again, but that takes, you got to step back for a second and say to yourself, okay, wait, is this a hard no? Or is this just a no, not at this time? And
yeah.
then you craft your response accordingly. But one of the things you have to do is practice it,
Oh, it's
right?
true. The first time, every time is the hardest.
Yeah.
Every time. Jason says we're doers, we're problem solvers, hard to turn that off, even when it means we do a better job when we say no.
Yeah, you're
And
so right.
because if our plate is too full, we're not giving enough attention to those things that are in front of us.
Right. And what does it do? I mean, to Jason's point, right? Such a good point. What does it do when you feel overwhelmed, unable to sort of get a
Oh,
grasp of everything on your desk? You're not productive at any of it.
no, no, you skim across the top and yeah, no, I agree with that. And I'm I'm trying to say no so that I do a better job and go deeper on the things that are really important.
Right. So tell me,
Uh-oh.
do you think it's as so? I find I can say no in my business, but saying no to family is really hard. How,
Oh,
how do you feel about that?
I'm with you. I'm like the worst. Like my kids can call me and be like, okay, case in point, I I have a dog now.
What?
Yeah, case in point. Okay. My son and his wife, he got stationed in Japan. So we took them to the airport 2 o'clock in the morning so they could get on their flight. They got all the paperwork ready to take their dog. First leg of the flight went to Chicago because the flight left at 6 a.m. The dog could not go on the flight because the temperature was going to be 30 degrees. And the dog was going to be in the cargo hold where dogs travel. Um, and they were like, we can't take the dog. And I'm like, okay, I'll take the dog.
Well, what else could you do?
No, I know. Wait, how many dogs do I have now? None. Like this is the one dog. Like I've never, so she's lovely. I can't even, but again, you can't really say no to that. Anyway, we're totally thrilled. We're already like, they're working on getting the dog over there. There's actually services that'll get it over there. And we're like, dog can't go. Sorry. We're like in love with the dog. So maybe sometimes saying yes,
Yeah, you're
but
like, get your own damn dog.
get your own damn dog. This is ours now. But again, I said, they're like, can you bring the dog? And I'm like, sure, I'll go to Japan and bring the dog. You know what I mean? So, but those are things that like, those are unique situations, but there's other times where if my kids, yeah, I'm bad. Like
Yeah.
if my kids said, can you come do this? I would have to say 90% of the time, I say yes. What about you?
So
You,
I'm gonna tell you a cautionary tale.
uh-oh.
This is the one time, probably the very first time in my life that I said no, and boy did it backfire. I had just had my daughter, so this was 14 years ago. She'd just been born. I I had my own law firm at the time, right? It was about a year old. Um, she's just been born. I literally took 10 days off of work and went back to work right away as soon as I was off the Percocet, is basically like that's when I went back to work. I could drive. She would go in her little baby carrier back to work. We're managing all of this stuff. She's born in July. Come September, my husband says to me, well, my mother's going to come out and visit. And I just, like, my head exploded
Yeah.
because when she visits, it isn't just a visit. It's I'm cooking the meals, I'm taking care of a guest in my house. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And we had a 3-year-old son. My son was 3 at the time. Like, these are babies, right? And I said, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And so she was supposed to come out for 2 weeks. So then she says, all right, fine, I'll just come out for a long weekend. And I said, okay, right? This is rule number 2, I broke. When you say no, you gotta hold your no. I did not hold my no. I said, okay, right? So she was supposed to drive out with a friend leaving on Saturday morning. On Saturday morning, she calls and she says, we've changed our mind, we're not gonna come. And it became a thing. Like, it became a thing. And I finally had to say to my husband, like, this is not my problem. Like, if everybody around me cannot see that this is a really bad time for me to have a house full of guests, because it was going to be her and her friend, like, that I can't own that, right?
Yeah.
It's never been the same.
Oh.
Always been a, well, I'm not welcome in your house bullshit.
Oh, God.
And so
That's such
there's
a
a cautionary tale.
No, and I agree with you. Because I have done the same thing. There are certain members of my family, when they come to my house, they're hugely helpful. They cook, they clean, they grab a kid, they do all kinds of stuff. They're great. But there's other people, when they come to my house, I kind of have to wait on them. And I'm thinking, like, okay, well, that's difficult. So there have been times when I've said no and hurt feelings every time.
Yeah.
And I don't know that, and I don't know how to make them understand. I guess you could try to make them see your side and just say, like, look, I'm really overwhelmed. But it's very hard to say to somebody, well, when you come, you're extra work.
Right. And you know, the mistake I made, right? So again, this is 14 years ago. I was a lot younger then,
I
and
know.
not as
Not as jaded as we are now.
right. The mistake I made was not communicating directly to her. I was communicating through my husband to her. And I think something got lost in translation. It's not his fault. He just doesn't have a clue. So if there was something that I needed to communicate directly to her to preserve the relationship, the burden was on me to do that. And I didn't, because I was overwhelmed. And I was like, you know what, just say no. Like, no, that can't be. And it didn't get communicated correctly. Right.
And I agree with you. I think that you have to, when you do say no, you have to say it.
Yeah.
And I think
you own that.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to own it. And it's true, because there are times when this is another form of saying no, is letting a client go.
Right.
And I feel like I have to be the one to say, no, we're done working here.
Right.
I can't pass that message to anybody else to deliver it, because it's just, like you said, it like gets lost in translation.
And I think another area in that vein that I always will own is telling a client they need to pay a bill. So I will never have my bookkeeper reach out to a client and say, look, you've got an outstanding balance. That's my relationship,
right?
My responsibility. They need to hear it from me. I think it's easier to dismiss it when someone else is saying, hey, you're 30 days past due, or whatever. If you hear it from me, they pay every time.
That's true. But I do have to say that, you know, it's funny, because a lot of business owners, there's actually like different trains of thought on that. So I've had business owners in the past say, I don't want, it muddies the water if I talk about finances. I'm working with them on doing a marketing campaign.
Right.
I need somebody else to talk money with them. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. But I agree partially with what you do. I actually don't do that anymore. I used to. But now, because I have the fabulous Gina, who just takes care of me, holds me accountable, keeps me steady on the course.
Right.
And she also does that. But But it's interesting, I agree with you. When the owner steps in and says, you need to do this now, people do listen.
Right. So what do you, why, and I don't know if there's an easy answer to this, but why is it so hard to say no to family?
Because so me personally, I don't want them ever to think that I'm not there for them.
Yeah.
That is,
That's a great point.
Michelle says, because you see them all the time.
And by the way, Michelle, I have no problem saying no to the family I see all the time. No, do it yourself, especially now during COVID.
Oh my God.
Yes, and you can't run away from them. That's a good point.
I mean, I think I'm better because they are home all the time now. But I think when I see them infrequently is when I have a harder time saying no. Like, if my son, so for example, my son from Japan, if he calls, I don't care where I am. I'm like, gotta go, because that time difference is enormous. And he's in the military. And if anybody's familiar with the military, your life is not your own. It's like they rule you. So if he has a few minutes to call me, I want to talk to him, because I may not talk to him for 2 weeks. So yeah, I think you're right. It's the people in the house.
And it's
My
the
husband,
guilt.
so when I told my husband I said, we're talking about saying no. He goes, just no in general, or no to your husbands?
But it's so funny because I think it is easier to say no to your husband because they're standing in front of you, right? And they get where you're coming from.
They do.
For the most part, you can say, look, I'm overwhelmed by A, B, and C things right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do D as well. I just can't. It's too much, right? But if you're trying to convey it to somebody who lives 5 states away about a visit where they think they're being really helpful by coming out to see you, and all I'm thinking is, that's 14 days of 3 meals a day that I'm gonna cook.
Oh my God.
No.
It's funny. You're right. It is really hard to explain. So, I was just involved in my son's wedding, and my daughter-in-law's mother planned almost all of it. She is amazing. But she would come to me and say, like, do you want to do this? And I was like trying to explain to her, like, I own my own business. I have 2 children at home that I am hands-on. I need to take care of. They're 12 and 14. And I just can't right now. Right. Like 2 weeks before the wedding, I will do anything you ask me to do. But it was a very difficult, this is my son's wedding, and it's like, and I had to say not right now. And it was difficult. It really
did you feel bad about it? Did you feel
guilty? I did, because I felt like she was offended, and it took, I had to like.
And you don't want to start out that way, right?
I know.
You don't want to hurt new family feelings.
It's a long-term relationship we got going on here. But I think eventually she understood. And I think if you don't own your own business and you don't live that lifestyle,
you don't get it.
Very hard for people. I have friends who used to say, like, you can't text me back? I was like, no, I can't. I literally can't get to my phone.
Right.
So
how do you, and I don't have a good answer for this, right? But how do you sort of reconcile yourself and your no with the guilty feelings? Because you're just feeling crummy now that you've said no. And that the person on the other side of this phone call is ticked off and thinks you think too much of yourself. And none of that is true.
So I think how I have tried to reconcile that is I cut myself a break, because I know that I'm speaking my own truth. Right. I have to believe in that. I have to, and I don't use it often, and it's not a crutch for me. It's more of, I'm speaking my truth. And when I can do something for that person that I had to say no to, I will.
Right.
So for example, I actually had someone who texted me 2 months ago. And I did not respond to her. Yesterday, I called her and I apologized. And I said, I'm sorry. Like, I couldn't even get back to you. I'm really, and we talked a little bit and just I explained the situation of everything that's been going on. And she's like, don't worry about it. But I felt like, it was kind of a no in the absence of answering. But at the same time, I try to come back and explain it. How do you handle it when you say no? Like, people are upset. What do you do?
I think I overcompensate then,
Yeah.
right? And first of all, you feel like a heel
Oh,
because you said no. And in
yeah.
that particular situation with my mother-in-law, it had ripple effects in it being sort of a difficult relationship with my husband for a while too, because he was caught in the middle of this.
Mhm.
And I don't think I know I didn't handle that whole situation very well. But what it taught me was I need to learn from that experience. And I need to sort of figure out what are the parameters I need to set so that the visits are okay. Right.
Yeah.
So I will, of course, you're welcome at our house, right? She's come and visit since then. Uh,
Right.
it's always like 3 or 4 days, which is totally doable in
Right.
my mind, right? And then I will completely go overboard on those 3 or 4 days and make it a really fun time for all of us.
Mm.
Um, and
But
make
that,
sure that I'm planning and off of work then.
yeah.
Um,
But that's really nice because that makes her feel special.
when I
Because,
felt like I needed to do that, because obviously my first no 14 years ago was a slap in the face, which was not what it was intended to be.
yeah. So as a new mother-in-law, that's so, yeah. I wonder, like, even like if they were to say no to me, like, if they have a baby and I want to go and they're like, no, we want, her mother to come first. And
Exactly. Right. And or you say, I'm going to come and I'm going to stay in a hotel,
yeah,
right? That never happens with us, right?
yeah.
I'm going to come, I'm going to stay in your house, and that changes the dynamic,
Oh
right?
my God, it does. It
I'll tell
does.
you, when my parents come to visit, they stay in a hotel.
Oh, do
They
they?
say, yeah, and they say, we'll see you after you're done with work. And
Oh,
if my dad is awesome. He'll say, I'll ride with you when you're driving the kids to swimming, and I'll sit with you because that's your downtime and you don't have other time. They're really conscious about not cutting into my workday.
wow. But they also own their own business too,
They
didn't they? So
do.
they get it.
They get it. And,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, right? Is um, you have to make sure that the other party on the other side, the recipient of the no, gets it.
Yeah.
And I think that burden, I feel like the burden is on us.
Yeah.
Now, in some instances, I don't give a shit if you get it or not. The answer is no. Right? But in the instances where you want to preserve that relationship or
Yeah.
that connection or the business, whether it's business
Or
networking
personal.
or
Yeah.
personal, I think you have to own the information flow.
Yeah. And you have to, yeah, you do. You have to own how you present it and what, like, not only what's going to happen now, but what happens later,
Yeah.
you know? And I agree. And I do think you do have to, if you're giving a big no, like, when you gave your mother-in-law that big no, new baby kind of thing, I think you do have to try to make that person feel special in some other way. And I guess that's what I try to do. Like, if I say no to somebody, I don't want them to take it personally. And I think that's what it is. Even if it's a client or a family member, I don't want them to take it personally
Right.
and say, like, it's not you, it's me. But that line is terrible.
No, no, we're not dating, for God's sake.
Nobody likes that line.
Right.
Even when you're dating, nobody likes that line. Oh, it's not you, it's me.
It's me. But you know what? As the recipient of a no, when
Yeah.
you get a no, I now am more I never feel offended. I never feel offended because I went through it and I
Yeah.
know how hard it is to deliver a no. So
Yeah.
when you get a no, just assume that something is going on in that person's life that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with them not wanting to see you or not liking you or any of it. It's just a no. That's all.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing right now during COVID. People are saying no.
Yeah.
They're saying no, like I can't meet up with you. I have a friend. She won't even meet up like on outside on a porch.
Right.
She has diabetes. Her husband had open heart surgery.
Ooh.
And so her no is a real no. And other people are offended by it. But once you know why she says no, you got to
Right.
go, you know what? It's a good no. You
Yeah. I
know?
had to say no to Thanksgiving plans.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I'm so sorry. And I tell you what, though, that one I didn't feel bad about because I delivered the information.
Yeah.
Can't do it because of, my son's health concerns. We
Yeah.
can't do it because when we're sitting at a dining table, even if we're socially distanced, we don't have masks on. We're eating. I can't do it.
I
Um,
know.
and she got it. It's just
Oh.
so
Then
I
that,
think,
then you delivered it clearly and effectively, and that's the best thing that we can do.
yeah,
Try to deliver that no clearly and effectively, and give our side of it, and hopefully and understanding their side while we're giving the no.
yeah. So,
Um,
oh my God, we're out of time.
we're out of time. How did that happen? All right, next time we are going to be talking about where do you find the best learning opportunities. I think we're all learners. Perpetual lifelong learners. Are you looking at webinars, books, blogs, podcasts, online conferences, peers? And how often do you engage in learning? Is it something? Do you set aside time? But we're going to talk about that next time. Good seeing everybody. Great
Have a
seeing
great
you.
week.
And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.